Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just jealous that I'm gonna be at work when this new movie DLC drops. So, let me just start this. So in a nutshell, I'm super excited for the DLC, but the title of this video, right? Sonic movie films influence on the games. This has come up in a couple of my videos already. I can't even pinpoint it to just one, so I can't even plug it. It's come up so many times. So let me just say in a nutshell, yes, I do think the Sonic films should influence the Sonic games. However, not any more than any other, media would if it makes significant strides in its each field, right? Animation, voice acting, storytelling, storyboarding, right? It's all the same. Like I said in my video yesterday about my anticipations and thoughts before I see the third Sonic film, right? As long as it stays separate, it's not going to really impact my thoughts on it, right? So I think it's good. However, it just needs to not distort who Sonic is, right? So that's why it puts pressure on things like IDW and Prime when they say they are canon. Now, it's also come up a couple times, oh, there's no Sonic canon. However, there's obviously an appetite for consistency between narratives. So I think that that's just the vocabulary that's being used, right? So as silly as it sounds to say, oh, the films, like, as long as they're not going to be canon, it's like, of course, they're never going to be canon. We're talking about if the games slowly, incrementally become the movies, right? They will inevitably try it. They're going to go where the audience is. And when something succeeds, media gravitates towards it. And that's going to happen. And that's what I'm saying I want to happen. However, the pressure being on IDW and the game, so Shadow Generations being a hit, my thoughts on Generations here, being a hit in terms of narrative, that's why that's so exciting. So the reason that I'm excited about this is because it's in a game like Shadow Generation, where it shows you. I know that there's diverse opinions, which I go into that video about Shadow Generation's story. However, I do overall, as a longtime fan, think they deliver in introducing this movie audience into Shadow as a character. But again, in the context of what we're talking about in this very video, where there's this tug of war of influence from the films and the games getting their distinct identity. Now, I genuinely thought that the game's distinct identity would be completely wiped out, right? I understand that there's a lot of compromising going on right now, especially in things like Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations. Just for me personally, Sonic Prime's interpretation of Sonic's character is crossing the line for me. IDW, he was a little preachy, but not a big deal because they've really course corrected, in my opinion. Again, thoughts over there. So we'll talk about it in a different comment section. But again, it claiming it's canon, I think IDW is on the right track. Prime, it would need to make massive changes for me to be able to swallow that. So the movies influencing the games, I think it's tied into my feelings on the models, right? Which I'll link here. It's all connected, right? I think there are some things that the official models from the games can learn about the movie models. That's not to say I'm not going full crazy, okay? Like, I'm not saying blue arms. I'm not saying two eyes, like, chill. I'm just saying there are certain expressions and emotions that can happen when you have access to your shoulders animation-wise, and it's really hard in three-dimensional space to figure out how that arm works. So I'm not saying blue is necessarily the answer. I'm saying, how do you retain the effectiveness of having a distinct arm color that contrasts with what a majority of his body is, but also make it so it doesn't look like this weird, like, skin suit? Because if you zoom in on some modern Sonic promotional art and you look at that shoulder joint, it's very strange. And as video game quality increases, like, again, the reason that this is so impressive is because of those realistic textures. And Sonic plays with realism in cartoon So I want them to play around with it at least. Like, even if they experiment with it in the next game, I'll be impressed and I'll be happy to talk about dialing it back if it comes to that. But for now, that's my thoughts on movies influencing the games. It's a little bit of a yes and no. It's inevitable, so of course I'm okay with it. But we just have to be careful, tread carefully, and that's why discussion like this matters so much. Thank you so much for continuing to support me. I'll follow up this video with my thoughts on the actual DLC because you know I'm going to play it as soon as I get the chance. Hope you have a great night. Enjoy the DLC, and that's it. Peace.